the Trump clan hitting the Armada, hitting New Hampshire. Middle son, Eric Trump. Hey, Eric, good to have you with us.
Hey, John, how are you?
Doing fantastic. Now, a new poll, CNN, WMUR tracking poll just out. Donald Trump leading the field, 29%. Marco Rubio, on the strength of his third place Iowa finish, catapults into second place with 18%. Ted Cruz, 13%. John Kasich, 12%. And then Jebet, 10%. And Chris Christie and Carly Fiorina, by the way, Carly kicked out of Saturday's debate. They're down at the 3% and 4% range. Eric, no doubt, New Hampshire, in my view, a must-win situation for the Trump campaign. You guys have had the lead there for some time. You got a great organization there. Tell me what the feeling is right now inside the Trump campaign about New Hampshire.
Well, listen, I think it's incredibly positive. We're having a lot of fun. You know, remember for us, this is all very new. I went to Iowa with my wife and Don and Ivanka, and it was very funny. You know, there were so many people who had never caucused before, who were residents of the state, and they were coming up to me. You know, this is the first time I'm caucusing, and I'm doing it for your father, and this and that, and I had to kind of laugh, saying this is the first time we've ever been involved in an election, ourselves. I mean, we're very, very new to politics, and I think that's what makes him so appealing. I mean, he's really, truly an outsider. The two of us have been building hotels all around the world and all around the country for the last 10 years, and he's truly, truly upset at what's happening with this country with the $19 trillion worth of debt. In fact, the day of the Iowa caucuses was the day that the country passed the $19 trillion mark, and we're 28 in the world in terms of education. Our vets aren't being treated well. We have a military that isn't what it was. We're losing every war. You were talking about TPP, a minute ago, and the trade pacts. I mean, they're total disasters. Our trade imbalance with China is $550 billion. Just what's happening to our country is unbelievable. In fact, it's almost criminal. And, it's really the reason my father wanted to do this. He didn't need to do this because he was bored. I mean, we have a great company. We're having a lot of fun together. I mean, but he's truly, it truly sickens him to see what's happening to our country.
Well, Eric, when I had your father on our show in May, and I predicted he was going to run for president and win, I did ask him one question. I said, you've got a beautiful family. You've got a multi-billion-dollar company. I did know at the time it was worth $10 billion. I said, you love to play golf. You own the greatest golf courses in the world. You have a great life. You have a 9-year-old at home. Why would you do this? I mean, you're 70 years old. I didn't want to tip his age off, but I said, you're going to be 70. Why would you get involved in this? And his answer really hit me that day, right on the air. He said, well, John, what good is all that if you don't have a country?
Yeah.
And I think that's been the driver behind this thing. Now, as you're going around New Hampshire, I know you guys are getting into a little more retail campaigning. I saw him last night with Anderson in the diner, and so you're out talking to people one-on-one. What has the reaction been?
Well, it's amazing. I mean, yesterday he was there all day, and they literally had to shut down certain streets because the amount of people going to his rally. I mean, 10, 12, 15,000 people going to a rally. I mean, it's really incredible. And you had literally entire town show up to support him. So, the amount of support that he's receiving there is just been absolutely incredible. And you're right when you say, why do this? And it's because he cares that much. I mean, he really, really does care. He's set in life. He doesn't need anything else, but he doesn't want to see our country go down the tube. And I think that's why people are drawn to him. I mean, he's not doing this as a job. He's not doing this because he needs, another hobby. He's not doing this because he needs a new career. He's a young guy and he's trying to make something of himself. I mean, he's really doing this to save a country that's really, in dire need at this point. And when you see those, thousands and thousands of people come out and, they come to these big rallies, I mean, it's just amazing support. I mean, I couldn't be more proud of the man. What he's doing is so incredible. I'm so proud of him. I mean, to think that, he entered politics 6 months ago, and he's doing this well in the race is really something special. I think it will go down in the history books.
Common sense. I was there that night where your dad made the speech. I thought he did pretty well. Second place, got almost. He actually got the second highest number of people to vote for him at an Iowa caucus ever, behind only Ted Cruz that evening in the history of Iowa. So I thought you guys did real well. What was the general mood flying out of there?
Well, I think it was incredibly positive, right? I mean, every pundit around the country always said Iowa was going to be the hardest state to win, especially for us, right? It was always, this was kind of a known fact. At the same time, and I think you just alluded to it, we had, I think, 47,000 votes in the state. The next highest record in the history of the state was 39,000. And so, he eclipsed that record. The amount of love in the state was really incredible. I mean, he truly, truly, truly did great. And it's also interesting, when you look at the amount spent per vote, Bush had spent, $2,800 per vote that he got in the state. I think we spent $78 or $80, per vote in the state. Cruz was about double that, if I remember correctly. So it was kind of fascinating statistics, but, we were right there, but, we have such momentum going into obviously New Hampshire and South Carolina, and Nevada, coming in second place in Iowa, which, many will consider to be the absolute hardest state. Remember, these career politicians, they spend their entire life campaigning right. In that state because it's first, and they know they'll ultimately get to it. I mean, again, we entered this race 5 months ago or 6 months ago, so it's, a very new thing for us. But, I'm proud of him. He was incredibly happy. That was a major feat. He broke all records that night, and the election broke all records that night, and certain things were done that night that everybody knows about, which were maybe less than great, but very, very, very proud of him, and honestly, he was incredibly upbeat. It was a great victory for us, and the media might not portray it that way, but it was a great victory for us and a great honor to come in second in a state that's as established as Iowa is.
When we looked at this thing at the beginning and started rating it, I rated Iowa as probably your toughest situation going in, just because of the way it was set up and the fact that we knew your organization was not set up to have the type of a ground organization that Ted Cruz had. I mean, he flew everybody, and he had thousands and thousands of people there. And look, it was a must-win state for him, and he did what he had to do. He did win. Now, New Hampshire, I believe, a must-win state for Trump. But look, the numbers just coming out. You've got a solid lead there. You're working hard. What has been the one, since you've been in New Hampshire, what's been the one thing that's different from Iowa? Eric.
Well, listen, Iowa's a very interesting state, right? I mean, you have the caucus process, and it took about 10 people explaining it to me before I understood the difference between the Democratic Iowa caucuses and the Republican Iowa caucuses and how it worked. And I actually spoke at the caucuses that night. I spoke at 3 major auditoriums with 1,000 people each in them, and it was really amazing to see how that process works. Obviously, going into New Hampshire, that's a much different process. It's kind of more of conventional polling, and so it's a little bit different, right? I think the tactics are a little bit different. You're not lining up thousands of people across the state to give speeches. It's just it's a little bit of a different type of election. It's a little bit more of a conventional type of election. So, I think there are massive differences between the two. And I think also just in terms of kind of makeup of demographics and other things, I think historically there has been a difference between who wins Iowa and who wins New Hampshire, and that's why they're always so fascinating to have them as some of the first two states in there, because I think it gives different ends of the bell curve and the spectrum of politics. So it's really a really fascinating process, especially again if you're so new to it as we are. But it's just really fascinating to see the differences.
Well, look, and you did extremely well. That's the other thing. As you said, it was not portrayed that way in the media. There was certainly a difference in expectations because you had the lead in some of the late-breaking polls going in. But you did turn out the second highest number of Iowa caucus people in the history of Iowa caucuses ever. In fact, you beat Mike Huckabee by like 7,000 or 8,000 from 2008. So, and
who won it? Who won it at that time?
Right.
Which is incredible.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think when you look at the facts, you guys did extremely well. Big debate Saturday night. In retrospect, in talking to your father, do you think that in retrospect, looking back, he should have went to the Fox debate in Iowa?
No, I think honestly, I think it was the right move. In retrospect, that he didn't go to that debate. The best negotiators in the world, and I consider my father the greatest negotiator in the world. And I sat across the table with him for the last 10 years as we've negotiated some of the best deals and some incredible things, and worked on major projects together. But you have to know when to walk away. And when a network is chastising you, when you're being effectively, I don't want to say picked on because that sounds a little and almost weak, but when you're kind of being chastised, when a political process is being turned into a soap opera, you have to know when to walk away. And I think that's the life, right? I wish this country spent more time walking away from deals. I mean, we should have walked away from the Iran deal, which was $150 billion that we gave to a country that hates our guts. You have to know when to walk away. And when they issued a press release that was snarky and kind of, it was just, quite frankly, unprofessional. And he goes, listen, I don't need this. I'm going to go out. I'm going to do my own event. And it was a very, very cool experience. We did an event for vets. And, heading to Iowa that night, we all hopped on the phone. And, remember, my father's self-funding his campaign. We've never asked anybody for a penny. And so we go, guys, here's our opportunity. So we all picked up the phone. We called, business partners. We called friends of ours. We called a lot of various people. And we said, listen, we're not going to ask you for a penny for this campaign. We're totally self-funding it ourselves. But we will ask you to write a check for our wounded warriors, the people who have been treated so poorly in this country. And literally in a matter of a couple hours between my father, Don, Ivanka, myself, other friends of ours, we raised, well over $6 million. We also launched a webpage that morning, so we're collecting donations. So we raised $6-7 million in effectively a 12-hour period, all of which went to about 20 different veterans organizations. And it was just an amazing night. I mean, the entire arena at Drake University was filled with wounded warriors and with these greatest vets. We saw guys from Korean War and from World War II and from Vietnam, and I mean, they were so proud. The pride in the air that night was so incredible. And so we did an amazing thing. I mean, we really did an amazing thing. And, hey, if it cost us 2 or 3 votes, I think it was well worth it in the end.
Going into the Saturday New Hampshire debate, critical debate for Mr. Trump, what do you guys look to do there? I know you've had some discussion over it, probably some debate preparation. What's your strategy, without obviously sharing the intricacies out on the air, but what's your general strategy in this Saturday debate?
Honestly, John, none. People always talk about strategy, and then what happens is, the pundits get their people, and they go into a little room, and they stand in front of a mirror, and they rehearse 37 lines, and, then they get on the debate stage, and, they get up there, and they say the same line 3 times, and you can tell it's totally scripted, and, that's not my father. My father's a guy who reads. He's a guy who listens to a lot of people's opinion, and then he goes out there and he speaks his mind, and that's why he never comes off as rehearsed. I mean, how many of the guys, and I'm sitting first row at these debates, but how many of the guys do you see that are, they'll get a question and they'll gaze out into the audience and they'll pause and then they'll answer the first half of it, and it's so polished and you can tell it's come out of their mouth 400 times before. I mean, it's not who my father is. He's a guy who, goes out, he speaks his mind, if people like the message, they like it. If they don't, they don't. And I think that's why he's doing so well nationwide, and that's why he's done so well in this race. And, quite frankly, it's, I think, why the polls in New Hampshire are indicative of, or quite frankly, where they are. It's an amazing talent to have, and, he's not the guy who's kind of memorizing sound bites, like all these other guys are. And, again, it just makes him, who he is. He speaks from the heart, he speaks from the soul, and it makes him a special candidate.
Common Sense New Saturday's debate, a return to the issues. I'm really tired of talking about who won Iowa, what was said, what CNN said, what Fox said, who's ahead where. I want to get back to the issues because I think if Saturday night your campaign and your dad can get back to the issues that put him in the position he's in, immigration, trade, foreign policy, ISIS, people coming over the border unabated, HB1 visas, taking U.S. jobs away, getting the manufacturing base back. I think if if you're able to get back to the issues, I think you're going to win this thing in a walk. What say you?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. And I think, I'm hoping the network doesn't make it into kind of another, circus show. Time and time again, it seems like some of the networks, have tried to make it into a soap opera and, Trump, Cruz said this about you, and Cruz, Rubio said this about you, and it's totally unproductive.
Stupid.
It's totally unproductive.
It's stupid.
I blame a lot of that on, quite frankly, the media. Wanting to get high ratings and make it into a little bit of a soap opera. And there's also certain networks that kept it incredibly professional. I mean, a couple of the debates have been incredibly professional, where you really didn't have the nonsense. But I think a lot of that's, quite frankly, determined by the moderators, and I really hope they have the sense to do the same. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, John. I hope they do speak about the issues, because quite frankly, the issues are the reason my father entered this race. He didn't need the other stuff. So I hope they take a sincere approach to this, and not just kind of garner attention for themselves, and make this into something it shouldn't be.
I think they owe it to the people of New Hampshire to focus on the issues. 5 consecutive debates. We still haven't heard one question on the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement or trade. Not one. And that I find that to be a disservice to all of us. Hopefully we can get back to the issues on Saturday, and I think if the debate team
by the way,
no
one wants to talk about the wounded vets.
Right.
No one wants to talk about the Veterans Association, who's
Right.
doing a terrible job taking care of them. I mean, there's a lot of serious topics in this country that no one's quite frankly brought up. I mean, how little time has been spent on the fact that we have $19 trillion worth of debt in this country, and what we're actually going to do about that problem that could quite frankly bankrupt this nation if he keeps going at the rate that's been going over the last 5-6 years. It's there's a lot of serious problems that haven't been spoken about, and I really hope they get to those.
Well, that's going to be the key issue, and we've got, as you say, $19 trillion in debt, $120 trillion in unfunded mandates. Nobody is talking about it. Hopefully we can get there Saturday. Eric, I'm going to be in New Hampshire, in Manchester, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Stop by. I'll be at the Radisson Hotel. We want to thank Eric Trump for being with us live in New Hampshire. The Donald Trump campaign in great position right now to win New Hampshire on Tuesday. Eric, thanks for being with us.
John, it's great. It's great being with you, as always. I'll see you in New Hampshire.
All right. More information.